Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this regular public meeting of Dieppe City Council this November 25. And we start with the mayor's announcements. Dear colleagues, may we have the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can change, and the wisdom to know the difference. So, call to order, confirmation of quorum, conflicts of interests. No declarations of conflicts of interest. So we go to the adoption of the agenda. So, Monsieur Cormier, you will be moving the adoption of the agenda. Your colleague is not here to second, so we're going to ask the adoption. All those in favor of the resolution, signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. So the agenda is carried as presented. And we go to the presentations, inquiries, and petitions. And we'll be starting with 7.1, inquiries by council members to the Kodiak Regional RCMP. And we wish a welcome to Mr. Arnold Critchell, who is with us tonight. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. Are there any questions from municipal council members? I see no lights turned on, so if you have things to tell us. The only thing I have is, as you know, Inspector Breton is leaving next week. So there will be a new inspector, Ben Joilette, will be starting next Monday. So the next meeting, he will be here. He will be here next week. His name, Benoit Joilette. Thank you. That's good. That's all. Okay, duly noted. Thank you. Thank you very much. As always, if you're interested in staying, feel free, but we'll understand if you do leave. So now we go to 7.2 presentation. Le Chac from Rotary Saint Anselme Park. So Jean-Michel Thériault and Jonathan Friolet who are with us tonight. To give us an idea of the concept. So good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. So I'm here tonight to present a winter project here at the city of Dieppe. We'll be starting with the viewing of the presentation, and then afterwards, if you have questions, they will be welcome. So our vision is to develop an excellent center of après-ski called Le Chac. So I'll show you the site, the project, and the details of the project. So first of all, I'd like to present my partner, Jean-Michel Thériault, and I am Jonathan Friolet. So Jean-Michel is not with us because he's out of town for work. So we're two buddies. We are residents of Dieppe. We've settled here with our little families, and we're very active in different activities and social events by the municipality. Our boys are the same age, so we know all the parks, the pool, all these beautiful things, and we're pretty busy. Jean-Michel is an engineer, professional, hired by Salesforce. He's a technical salesman. As far as I'm concerned, I'm in business, and I have my own business, and I've had it for more than 5 years. We're talking about a project that's at the Rotary Park. More specifically, you see the zone in red. You can see at the top, there's the sliding area, then there's the pavilion where you have the rental areas, and then at the bottom you see where it is the shack. It's a little building. More specifically here you see the cycle the cycling circle, so it gives you an idea of where we're at exactly. So that's the face of the building in question. It's not really very attractive, but it's also visible. As soon as we're on the get to the Rotary Park, we see it on the left, and it's very close to the slide area and to the trail. So we have an agreement with the cycling center, so we have another vision for this building. Here, the colors and the design are just an example. But what we want to do is we want to change the outside and the inside so that the general area, it makes it look like a ski lodge chalet. It won't necessarily look like all the other businesses that are around from the city, but we can see on the sides, we wanted it to fit into the area. We want it to look wintry, warm. We want something woody. We want something that looks cozy. And for the cycling center, they're really happy to be able to take advantage of these renovations, winter and summer. So here, you see on the picture on the right side, we see a vision with an outside terrace with a sitting area. We can look at the slide area. There will be many families. So it's for also true. We don't see it on the picture, but we would like to add on the north side of the building a big bay window. We've already had discussions about this. So we can see the slide area from the inside of the building. So the proposal it would be an après-ski lodge. There would be a bar, a lounge. It would be a warmed terrace. This is after skating, after snowshoeing, after sliding. There are a lot of activities at the Rotary Park in the winter. So there would be an inside lounge with a fireplace, and there'll be a fire pit on the outside terrace. It would be very similar to the picture on the right-hand side. We'd also like to develop other family activities for outside activities, but it's something that we'll talk about later. Sorry, I missed a slide. So concerning the services and activities, this is what we are going to be committing ourselves to organizing. We'll have a snowshoe rental. It came up often from different people that we talked about, so we'd like something to work out like that. There would be a station inside. There would be kind of a rack, a heating rack, to be able to put boots and gloves to warm them up. At the outside, we'd like to have a kind of a station where we could have the skis, the sliding equipment, snowshoes, fat bikes, things like that, where we can hook them up. There'll be a snack bar also with different things. Concerning the activities, we'd like to have activities, things like maple taffy on snow. We'd like to invite performers. We'd also have observation rallies also. Also other activities that we'd like to develop in partnership with the city of Dieppe. And certainly we're open also to other sorts of activities. In items that we would like to propose, we'd like to create a warm area where we can relax, warm up while socializing. We'd like people to make their experience longer at the Rotary Park instead of going home when they're cold and things like that. They're tired. They waited for their children that were sliding in the parking maybe for an hour or two, or maybe they're hungry or thirsty. So we'd like to be able to offer this type of thing around a good warm chocolate or a hot chocolate or coffee. We'd like to have pre-prepared sandwiches, energy bars, or nuts, things like that for the sports people. We'd also like to have an accessory section, for example, wax for the skiers, hot paws, something like that for the colder days, chapstick thing for the lips, things like that. Little accessories, little details that could probably increase the well-being and the fun of the people. We'd like to have also draft beer, a small section for local breweries with maybe wine or drinks, Bailey's type of drink. So the agreement with the cycling center of Dieppe, we've met the committee already, and I can tell you we couldn't find a more excited partner. It's a win-win situation for both parties. They don't necessarily have the funds to make renovations or changes. So we're talking about a rental agreement of 5 years for the winter, either from November to December, something like that. Also, we discussed our support of them. They're going to be losing the building during the summer, but during their fat bike activities, we'll be supporting them, and they'll have access to the building. We'll be there to open it up and to organize their meetings, things like that. I'd also like to mention that we have 2 letters of support from the cycling center and the ski center. So they have activities during the summer, so during the winter. So we want to support them, and they will be supporting us. So tonight, what we're asking is the agreement of the city that will give us the permission to use the building on the city of Dieppe, but as being used by the cycling center, so that we can go forward with the project as we have presented it. So it's the end. But I'd just like to mention that the pictures here, it's not haphazard that they're here. On the left up there, I really like the picture. This is a maple syrup taffy. We see people in snowshoes and skis. There are a lot of people. These are reunions. These are activities that bring together people. So on the right-hand side, maybe we won't have the possibility of making a fireplace as big as this, but the idea is to, if we have the room, this is the type of thing that we're looking for. And on the bottom, on the left, the ski rack, or for the snowboard racks, snowshoes, and on the bottom on the right, this is already an activity that exists at the Rotary with horse-drawn carriages in the winter. So that puts an end to my presentation. If you have any questions. Yes, questions from members of council? No questions. Good. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. And yes, there'll be follow-ups with city staff, and we'll see. Thank you. Thank you very much. Next item, 7.3, presentation, Olivier Doiron for United Way. We also have our staff representative who's busy with the campaign. Annick, I almost forgot your name. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Thank you for having invited us for the presentation here. I'd also like to thank the city of Dieppe and its staff for the continued support to United Way over the years. And I would like to mention that the city of Dieppe ended with its campaign with $14,000 and ended for the first time in the top 10 best campaigns with the second place. So it's a great accomplishment. And it really helped the community in which we live on a daily basis. So as Mr. Mayor mentioned, my name is Olivier Doiron. I'm the campaign manager of United Way here in Greater Moncton in southeast of New Brunswick since February. I've held a couple of positions, but I've always been connected to the campaign of United Way, being a donor myself. But I say since February, I've learned a whole lot on what the organization does in our region. So to talk to us a little bit about the United Way in the southeast region of New Brunswick, many people know United Way as a fundraising organization. We see it as a community organization, an impact on the community. And the reason is easy. We fund agencies who benefit for their programs, but we also have our own initiatives at United Way. And I'd like to mention one of them. We're in partnership with the Salvis Clinic, and we have 3 buildings, residential buildings, where we have people who live there and they have problems with mental illness, and they've been with chronic, with no residences, homeless, people who live either with support, people there who've lived the same type of situation, mental health or homelessness, and who've succeeded in getting out of those things, and they're helping people to get out of those ruts. So it's a question of donations. Thanks to somebody who's giving a lot of money, we were able to have residential buildings, and there's even more need for this type of thing. Another initiative of United Way we've created, it's Inspiration Coffee House. If you've never been there, it's in the ground floor of the basement at 22 Church Street in our building, in the Peace Center. The Inspiration Coffee House started with government funding, and that changed things to, the cafe itself, the coffee house, is an opportunity for people who have barriers as employment in concern. So we give the opportunity to work in a restaurant-type environment that'll lead them eventually to restaurant work when they're able to get acquainted with this with the flexible hours. And then another activity, we're talking about U-turns, started 5 years ago when the superintendent of the Anglophone East School District contacted us for a absenteeism problem at Harrison Tribble. Was beyond his resources. He didn't know how to find solutions. The youth were not coming to the school, and I'm a little happy that the superintendent Kirschlow is here for the presentation, because he's aware of the program U-Turn. Some youth sometimes got involved with drugs. There's anxiety, there's mental health, there's prostitution. Youth weren't going to school, and for the wrong reasons, and so we had to find solutions. So that's where U-Turn started, and since then, 5 years ago, with the strategic coordinators in the schools, there's been a reduction of 33% of the absenteeism in the involved schools, an increase of 36% of the resolution of problems for youth without having to deal with drugs or other methods, and a reduction of consumption of 25%. So something that has really been successful for United Way. So the requests for these types of programs in other schools and other districts are very numerous. It's an organization that funding our own activities, and we see the impacts in our own community. You were given a little bit of a little orange pamphlet that was distributed, and it talks about the issues that are difficult sometimes to see. And this year, the theme of our campaign is, it's a theme, but it's also an objective, hashtag unignorable. And what do we mean by unignorable? The local issues are sometimes difficult to see. We shouldn't be indifferent to them. It's sometimes we realize that people live their own lives. They do their things. They go to work. They go shopping. And unless it's really visible, or that you're aware of a specific issue, poverty, mental health, food safety, it can sometimes be difficult to do something or to go forward with an action. And our objective at United Way is to put these issues forward so that people are aware that people need things here in our region. We give you the statistics. 1 out of 10 lives in poverty. 1 child out of 5 in New-Brunswick lives in poverty. In the Greater Moncton, we talk approximately 200 homeless people every night around Moncton. 2 other statistics that really hit home with me: 1 out of 3 youth in New Brunswick says that he feels to need somebody for emotional problems or problems of mental illness. And the last report that we've said is 1 out of 2 youth in New Brunswick says he doesn't have any positive influence from an adult in his life, including his family. So these are statistics that hit people where it hurts. So that's why we say it's unignorable. Cannot be indifferent to this type of thing this year. So the agencies that we fund work at this, and United Way helps these agencies to counteract these issues. We're funding 21 agencies, 24 programs, and our agencies, like I said, we cover Kent County, Westmoreland, Albert. So we go from Port Elgin, Elsipogtad, Shediac, Petitcodiac, Albert County, and obviously here in Dieppe in the Greater Moncton. Our agencies do important work, and often funding is for programs. It's long term, and it's to make sure that we have staff, that we have coordinators, social workers, people who work directly, specifically with youth. 64% of our funding goes to youth. We don't want to send youth in a program. We want youth to go see someone, to go see Jonathan, for example, with Impact Youth, to talk about their drug dependencies. All these things are important for United Way. I want to talk a little bit also about the agents that we have here. Is the Youth House, Maison des Jeunes, with entrepreneurs that gives a place to the youth, especially from Mathieu Martin. Okay, it's open to other schools, but it's to give them a place to participate in activities that wouldn't have the opportunity to do other than at La Maison des Jeunes. There's the Boys and Girls Club in which we fund the program, the drop-in program, so they can participate in activities and also can get support in that program. The reason why we have this unignorable campaign is because of the needs. So our objective this year is it's a social objective. we don't want to ignore these things. So we need to raise as much funds as possible. Every year, agencies like the Boys and Girls Clubs of Dieppe and La Maison des Jeunes apply to United Way for funding. The applications can be for 1 year, or can they be pluri-annual? We're talking about 3 years. We're talking about funding of $30,000. That's $90,000 over 3 years. It's funding that can help give these important programs. Applications are reviewed by a committee of 16 people. They are volunteers and from the community, from different sectors. There's an impartial process. And there's a list of programs, and then my boss has the difficult task of setting a specific line, and under that red line, they won't be funded, not because they don't have good programs or good people, just because we don't have enough funding. I was talking earlier today with somebody who was telling me that it's her 53rd presentation that I'm putting forward to council, and we really need the support of everyone, that everyone should give a little more. Unfortunately, we can't fund everyone. The need is there, but we want to eliminate this red line under which they cannot be funded. But it's $400,000 to $500,000 a year is what we could use. That being said, on behalf of my organization and all the organizations that we support, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your support that you give to this United Way campaign every year. I know that you have some of the members come to launches every year, and I want to wish you a good campaign, and thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation. Are there any members of council who have questions? I'd be happy to answer. Yes. We know that everyone knows United Way very well. There's very few people who do not participate in United Way. If there are any, raise your hand. See, no, nobody's raising their hand. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Thank you. So that being said, we continue on the presentation. A snow job. Presentation of snow removal and de-icing plan 2019-2020. Up to now, we haven't had much need for it. With Monsieur Dubé and Monsieur Le Breton. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. It's our annual presentation. 2 parts. First with me, superintendent at the Public Works, and then there'll be the representative of Monsieur Breton for recreational station. We're part of the service of operations. Context. We have 168 kilometers of streets that have to be that's 360 kilometers of ways. For example, Champlain is 4 lanes. When we calculate this, the municipality has 64 kilometers of sidewalks to plow, 1,480 fire hydrants, 32 kilometers of trails, and 31 parking lots. Public Works Service, our snowplow equipment, we now have 5 trucks with forward blades and wings, with brine, salt, and sander. 10 loaders with the blade and wing. 6 municipal and 2 rentals and 2 businesses. We have 1 backhoe. I had to look up the term in English. 2 blowers for the and 1 versatile tractor with a blower, and 5 trackless with blade, blower, and sand spreader. Classification of streets. We talk about priority 1, priority 2, priority 3. In our jargon, it's P1, P2, P3. If you hear it, that's what it means. So the big arteries like Acadie, Amiro, Champlain, and Paul. Collector is priority 2. Those are the ones that bring us to priority 1, like Bourg, Central, and La France. And then priority 3, local streets, Muriel, Orleans, and Marguerite in the subdivisions. That's our map. All these maps will be on our website tomorrow. PDF, so good resolution, so you can zoom in on there. So that gives you, it's color coded, so P1 are green, P2 are kind of gun, and the others are P3s. That gives you an idea. So plowing operations. The initial intervention is a brine. It's 24 hours before the snowfall. It's water, salt, and it helps to reduce the stickiness of the snow to the asphalt. It's a combination of 79% water, 21% salt, and it's good, effective till up to minus 15 Celsius. For example, if we take a pan and you put some Pam in there, and your egg is not going to stick. So that's what the brine does on the asphalt. It's not going to stick. If you don't know what brine is, you see a big truck. It's like white water. It's salted water, basically. This is the most important slide here. It's on the website. It's the length of plowing operations. We live with this. You see on one side, you see the precipitation in centimeters, and then you see afterwards the length in time. So all accumulation of 10 centimeters and less, it takes us about 1.5 days, 36 hours to plow completely. 20 centimeters and less, it's 2.5 days, and 30 centimeters and less, it's 4 days. And then, obviously, the 40 days and more is that's starting the last snow, the end of the snow fall. The sun comes out. That's when we start plowing and we start broadening the street, cleaning them up. So plowing and broadening of streets or widening of streets. So first of all, we snow plow, and then we widen. And also we have the sidewalks, the P1 and P2s. P1s are localized basically downtown, school zones, all these areas where the young ones walk more often. Then we have the pedestrian crosswalks, and then the buttons. We try to eliminate the snow around there so that people could there and press on the buttons to cross. So we have the bus shelters and the fire hydrants. The length of operations depends on a couple of factors. The type of snow. Last year we had a lot of heavy snow. That's those who shovel it know it. If it's heavy for everybody, for our equipment also. So it could probably take more time. If it's a powder snow, then it goes much more quickly. There's also the exterior temperature, colder, hotter, new precipitation during the snow plowing operations. So if we're snow plowing and it's snowing, then the clock goes back to zero. And our reality is also we have breakdowns of equipment. It happens. Our objective is to clear all the streets within the 8 hours following the snowfalls. In the case of 30 centimeters, the objective is to clean the snow as quickly as possible. In the case of parking lots like Place 104, the objective is to clear the snow within the 4 hours after the snowfall, after the end of snowfall. 4 hours, that's our objective. Also, we're going to get rid of the snow and move the snow away from parking of Place 104 along the sidewalks around Champlain, Marché, within the 96 hours following a storm, the end of the storm. Most of the time it's Friday, but if it's during the week, we'll do it again. We'll do it, and then we'll do it again. Snow removal of the fire hydrants is done with the collaboration of the fire services. That means that as we're clearing the snow and when we've finished the widening of the streets, that we free a piece of equipment, a loader, for example. Then we send them and we start clearing out the fire hydrants. So every time there's a piece of equipment that is added, at all times, the fire people can contact us, and we have, for example, if the fire somewhere and for a reason or another they have problems with the snowbanks, we'll get there as quickly as possible. There's always a piece of equipment that's fairly close by. Okay, here we go with the hot potato talk at cul-de-sacs. Last year we had a little bit of a problem, or faulty communication. I'll try to be a little more clear this year. So we have two types of cul-de-sacs. The traditional one, we have houses, everything is spread out normally. So then we can kind of spread out the snow to all the residents. That's something that's distributed to all the residents as equitably as possible. But I mean, still a human being who's driving the piece of equipment. But we also have 19 cul-de-sacs where the entrances, the duplexes, it's too close by to one another. So we go by once, try to give as much equally to everybody else. And then we go a second time. And we put it on a website so to make sure, so the cul-de-sacs, I'm going to name them. It's not priority listed. We have Marceau, Danny, Poitou, Chianti, Chablis, Cabernet, Syrah, Conservation, Houlihan, Nugent, Célestin, Sapin, Frêne, Danube, Tuhig. The last four are Albini, Evangeline, Vézina, and Bayview. They're a little different because we're not going to pile it up in the center as we did with the other ones. We're going to pile it on the side because there's not really enough room in that turnabout. So we'll put it on the side between two driveways, maybe, if we can. All these cul-de-sacs that are on the list, the snow is moved away, transported. So that gives you an idea of the cul-de-sac. So if ever this list is on the website, so people, the residents, can consult it if you're not sure if you're on the list or not. And something new against also this year is our snow dumps. On the right-hand side up there, the blue, that is 2050 Champlain Street, that's our snow dump. You can see the site. It's written 78 acres for the dump. It's the full piece of land. We only have a small portion that's developed. So if we fill everything, that means that we'll have had a lot of snow on that side. So for the snow dump. Then we have the classification for sidewalks, which is basically the same principle. High volume arteries, priority around Place 104, etc. Our objective is 24 hours after the end of the snowfall of 30 centimeters and less. Priority 2 in the region of around the aquatic center, sports aquatic, and the sidewalks of less volume arteries and collector. So the idea is to do 3 days after the priority 1 sidewalks. Once again, once we're finished, the pieces of equipment are freed and can go work on other places. Now it's Jonathan's turn Thank you. Maybe before going to Jonathan's, I see at least one light on. So, Monsieur Godet. The roundabouts, the cul-de-sacs, have there been any changes this year in the procedures or in the operations compared to last year? Or is it basically the same type of way of doing things, the same protocol? How am I going to say this? We had a protocol last year. Sometimes the drivers had to modify things for one reason or another. Sometimes maybe because it's easier for them to do it one way rather than another way. We reviewed everything and we've set up a standard. We developed, as a team, a standard that's going to be equivalent for all of them. So there are no major changes as opposed to last year. My second point, I see that on the map that Industrial Street is not considered as a collector artery. It's, I think it's priority 3, I see. Yeah, that's a mistake. Yes, it should be a collector. Okay, thank you. That being said, we now go to Monsieur Le Breton, good evening. Good evening, members of council. So basically the same principle. Context. We have 7 parkings with recreational. The ice circle, 1604, Rotary Park, and 2 outside rinks and the preparation of ski trails. I think there's a typo in this typo. It's not 2018, 2019. It's 2019, 2020. The municipality has 50.3 kilometers of trails, and we see that we're going to be clearing probably 32 kilometers of trails. That's represents 61% of the trails. We have 2 trail tractors with blades, blowers, and sander. 1 tractor. It's not a versatile. It's with a blower and blades. 2 trucks with blades. 1 sander and 2 motor snowmobiles with 1 for the ski trail. A little bit like classification. P1 and P2 will be snowed. Cleared within 24 hours after the schools and other also that are very busy. The total is 11.4 kilometers of the trails. Something that could be P21 is the Dieppe Boulevard. Sometimes we use 1 trail instead of the 2, so that means it becomes a P1. Classification for P2, they will be cleared during the regular work hours, and it could last 5 days to complete the task. The total of P2 trails is 20.6 kilometers. As you can see, we have P1, our green. We also have the P2, these the pointed line, and then the trails. But the P1 are the green ones, and the P2s are the red ones. My section is finished, so if you have any questions. It took less time to snow removal than for Eric. And now we are ending this with a request to our citizens. We have a fire hydrant adoption program. What does it mean? If you decide it, you can go on our website and apply to adopt a fire hydrant. That means that after every storm, you clear it. And if you're not there, then we will be doing it for you if you're not there. Everybody was in the figures. We have 1% of our fire hydrants that have been adopted. Okay, so we have an adoption problem then. Also, we added a couple of different images so that the work is facilitated for our people. We ask you not to park on the streets during the night. Sometimes we get there and there's some vehicles that are parked on the street and towing is not always available. I mean, it doesn't bother us to tow them, but sometimes they're not available. So we have to go back again. We're asking you not to put the snow from a driveway on a street or a municipal street or a sidewalk. We also don't want you to put the snow around the fire hydrants. They know they're going to clear them, so it's not fun if it's done after we've cleared it. We're asking you not to park correctly in your driveway so that you don't hamper the work of the snowplow. Sometimes there are bumpers that are, or sometimes it's the whole car that is sticking out, and that's dangerous for our people and the vehicle. Try to not slip and slide at the intersections because it basically compacts the snow and makes it even more slippery. Put the garbage where it's not going to hamper the snowplow or the snow removal operations. Sometimes we have to pick up the garbage cans and put them somewhere else because they're right in the way of the snow clearing equipment. So please make sure you don't. Also, sometimes we have the clear the area of the drains also. And put the snow on your left side of your driveway as you're looking at your driveway so that it doesn't come back into your driveway as we clear it. Any questions? Questions from members of council? Monsieur Brideau. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to come back on the presentation. The parking in streets at night. I noticed it a couple of years ago, and the same thing happens. The storms that start in the mid-afternoon, people are parked there on the side of the street. And I know that during the winter, starting midnight, you can't park. But I'm asking people, just so that they're polite, because we start clearing the streets earlier. If there are cars at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night and there's snow clearing equipment, it makes the clearing of streets much more difficult, more complicated. So it's just a question of politeness during the winter. If we park a car earlier in the afternoon or in the evening and there's a storm, don't wait till midnight to put your car in the driveway. Just put it earlier so that our staff has a better opportunity to do good work on the snow clearing. Thank you, Monsieur Brideau. Any other questions or comments? If not, thank you very much, Monsieur Dubé and Monsieur Le Breton, for your excellent presentations. Let's hope there's as little snow as possible. But at least we know that we're equipped for it. Without further ado, we go now to questions by members of the public. No questions of our numerous public tonight. So that we go to the adoption of the regular council meeting minutes held on November 12th, moved by Councillor Brideau, seconded by Councillor Cormier on the question. No question. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. So the minutes of the meeting of the 12th of November have been carried. Appointments. I see that there's whole mess of appointments. We're going to go with one at a time. Monsieur Thibodeau. 10.1.1 Dieppe Arts and Culture Center. The Council appoint Paulette Léonard as Dieppe's representative, appointed by the mayor on the board of directors of the Dieppe Arts and Culture Center for another term ending December 31st, 2020. So moved, Mr. Mayor. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Madame Le Boutillier on the question. No question. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. Planning Advisory Committee. Monsieur Thibodeau. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Council appoint the following persons on the Planning Advisory Committee for another term ending on December 31st, 2022. Jeanne Farah, Corinne Godbout, and Claudette Leblanc. So moved, Mr. Mayor. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Brideau on the question. No questions. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried. 10.1.3 NB Crime Stoppers. Monsieur Thibodeau, your mic is on. The Council appoint Yvon Como as Dieppe's representative on the board of directors of NB Crime Stoppers for another term ending on December 31st, 2021. So moved, Mr. Mayor. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Alain on the question. No question. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. Number 10.1.4 Capitol Theatre. The Council appoint Nicole Gautreau as Dieppe's representative on the board of directors of the Capitol Theatre for another term ending on December 31st, 2022. So moved, Mr. Mayor. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Brideau. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying questions. No questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried. Thank you. Now for 10.2 organizational performance. Monsieur Melançon. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Things were going well without me taking the mic, so maybe we can continue. But I guess you have here, since last year we go through the review of our strategic plan, so you're asked to adopt the mission, the values, and the strategy of our plan, the 2020-2024 strategic plan. During the presentation, there's been feedback by members of council. We've consulted the public. Some things have been adjusted on the documents that you have with you tonight, and it was validated by our consultant also. So we ask you to adopt these new elements. And the next step, the team of the administrative team and staff, we're working on the development of our action plan, and with measurements of our findings that we will be presenting at the beginning of the next year for adoption tonight, to continue the process of the review of the strategic plan. For the reading of the resolution, Monsieur Alain. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That Council accept the preliminary report of the 2020-2024 strategic plan and adopt the vision, the mission, the values, issues, and strategies as outlined in the summary table attached to the memorandum dated October 16, 2019. Moved by Councillor Alain, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau on the question. No questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. 10.3.1. Monsieur Melançon. Here you have before you renewal of a license, the enterprise agreement. Esri Canada, renewal of a period of 3 years starting the 16th of December this year, 2019. It's $96,000 for the whole year plus HST. This is a service. It's the only supplier we proceeded with an adoption of agree, which is stipulated in the public purchase on the public purchase. So we comply with the procedure. We ask you to adopt this license. Thank you for the reading of the resolution, Monsieur Godet. That council renew the mutual enterprise license agreement, ELA, with Esri Canada for a 3-year period starting December 16, 2019, at the contract a price of $96,340 plus HST. That council further authorize the expenditures for the first, second, and third year, $31,550, $32,110, and $6,680 plus HST, respectively, be 83% defrayed from account number 1-2-20-21-2245, General Operating Budget, Technical Support and Software Maintenance, at 12% defrayed from account number 2-2-90-21-2245, Water Operating Budget, Technical Support and Software Maintenance, and 5% defrayed from account number 2-2-95-21-2245, Sewer Operating Budget, Technical Support and Software Maintenance. So moved. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Cormier on the question. Moved by Councillor, moved by Councillor Godet, seconded by Councillor Cormier. Okay, on the question, no questions. So all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Resolution is carried as presented. That brings us to the end of the meeting, but as with everything, no municipal bylaws, notices of motion, no notices of motion, inquiries and announcements by members of council, and I believe that we continue with Councillor Godet. I have nothing tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Monsieur Cormier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I take this opportunity to congratulate the Matadors from Mathieu Martin, who won the championship of secondary schools in Moncton during the weekend. Near miss. It's a victory, though, and I would like to congratulate the girls who were in the final of the last tournament. And notice to citizens, the rink, the skating oval is open for skating. Thank you, Councillor Brideau. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing tonight. Thank you, Madame Le Boutillier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Things have been said already. So first of all, I'd like to congratulate the organization of the Christmas parade. Really great. It went well. The ceremony, it was great. It puts us in the mood. A couple of points, a couple of things. Kind of a call to our citizens. I'd like to congratulate Jasmine Leblanc. She's a resident of Dieppe. Well, not really now because she's in Ottawa, but Jasmine, I think it's her 4th consecutive year where she's part of the Ringette Canada team, and she'll be participating in the World Championship next week, as well as Brittany Snowden. Some of you have mentioned her. She's the captain of the Junior Canada team that is going to also participate in this championship. And that is something. There was someone else too, but she was injured and she won't be able to participate. I'd also like to mention an activity that is very important that's going to take place. So I'd like to mention the Tree of Hope at the Community College this Friday. Please be there. It's certainly a good cause. Our mayor is going to be participating, and he will get his hair cut. there'll be a big surprise in 2 weeks. I really look forward to seeing that. Thank you. Thank you, Monsieur Thibodeau. Nothing for me tonight, Mr. Mayor. Monsieur Alain. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also want to congratulate people who do the haircut of hope, good courage, good friends. Julie Whalen, Denis Lausier, Sébastien Dupuis, David Savoie, Martin Latulippe, Jean Brousseau, Ligne Achille Leblanc, Pasquille Paulin, Denis Abud, Thomas Raffi, Bertrand Haché, Brian Galland, Roddy White, Ian Carey, and Mr. Mayor. And I congratulate you for your efforts. You're right in the middle now, but it's a great initiative from the Georges Dumont Foundation. Also this year here at the Arts and Culture Center, the 28th, Thursday, there's a roast of Bernard Laude for the Arthritic Society. I think it's a full house. Maybe there are a couple of tickets that are still available for people who want to give money. And third, in 2 weeks, we'll be voting our budget. I've had many discussions with residents of Dieppe on the subject, and I encourage people, once again, to give me a call to talk about it. Important decisions that will be made in the next couple of weeks. I see today the city of Moncton that is looking for a synthetic field at l'Odyssée. We want our own synthetic field. Synthetic turf, so it's a cry for help to the provincial and the federal government that we want our just share. So many important decisions in the next couple of weeks. So I hope people will be taking the opportunity to talk budget. Thank you very much. Yes, I've accepted very quickly, as soon as I was contacted by Monsieur Claude Paré, to participate in this fundraiser. I announced it to my wife. Well, she wasn't as excited as I was, but yes, the campaign is going really well, and it's a fantastic opportunity for the whole community to really bring this Tree of Hope fundraising to another level. I think the objective is $2 million, not just us, but the whole campaign. And it rarely went above 1.7 million in the past. So this is really a very important objective to try to get another $300,000 minimum, which is basically going to be new money. At the beginning, it started with 30 people because it was the 30th year of the Tree of Hope. I think that we are now at 45 people on the list, and who will be basically sacrificing their heads and all their hair on their heads. And I am proud to be part of that group. And I went beyond my objective, but it's not the idea. It's to go beyond what we can do. So I congratulate already the people who have already contributed, and incite the people who have not done it yet to really take pleasure in getting my head shaved. It'll probably occur here, take place here in the entrance hall. And we believe that most of the volunteers who will be sacrificing their hair will be getting their heads shaved here in Municipal Hall, maybe with a smaller group of people who will get their heads shaved on Friday, because I have to say that with 45 people, it would probably have been too many people for Friday, so it was decided to do most of them get their heads shaved, and then there'll just be a couple of specific people who will be requested to ask to participate only on the Friday. I will be here on Thursday night, and I've already renewed my collection of toques and hats. That being said, a good evening to all.